I am Cindy Ellenberg, the 33rd District PTA Parliamentarian, and this workshop is just to go over the basics for being a parliamentarian. This is a Zoom meeting, and as you know, it's being recorded and will be posted to our district YouTube channel. Handouts were sent to all that registered ahead of time, and if you were late in registering, they will be available. I will send them out again to those who I didn't send out the first time. Type any questions into the chat. Please make sure that your questions are of a general nature, not related to a specific unit or council. When it comes to an issue or problem, we're here to answer general parliamentarian bylaws questions. Just to give a quick plug before we start, on Monday night, I will be giving a bylaws basics workshop. So if you haven't already signed up for it and are interested, there's still plenty of time to sign up for that. Okay, next slide. Okay. First thing that happens with the parliamentarian is that the president appoints the parliamentarian. They are not elected at any level. The appointment is then ratified by the board. The parliamentarian is an officer of the board once that happens. It is the duty of the parliamentarian, as inconspicuously as possible. Sometimes, especially during Zoom, it's not as easy to be inconspicuous, but you want to call attention to the president or chair of any errors in the proceedings that could affect the rights of any member or do harm to the organization. My suggestions would be, first thing to do as a parliamentarian, even if you've been parliamentarian for 2.5 months, read the bylaws and the standing rules. You should have a copy of your unit or council's bylaws. Become familiar with Robert's Rule of Order or Robert's Rules in Brief. That is secondary to the overall bylaws. The bylaws are the most important at this point. You can find a lot of websites if you don't want to purchase the Robert's Rule book or the quick guide. The newest edition is Robert's Rules 12th edition. So he's been around a while. You should review the California State PTA toolkit and website, especially the sections that discuss bylaws, nominations, and elections. We'll go into that later and how to get to the California State PTA website for that information. The parliamentarian attends all meetings of the association and the board, and it's your role, your primary role, to assist the president in managing PTA meetings and advise the president on parliamentary procedure when requested or when needed. You should try to wait until it's requested, but you have the back of the president. Your president is gonna rely on you for good or bad. I don't know how thrilled Melanie is that I'm her parliamentarian, but I have her back and hopefully she knows it. And you wanna make sure that the rules are followed, even if something gets sidetracked. Keep your president or the chair on the straight and narrow. You need to help implement the bylaws and chair the bylaws committee to review the bylaws and standing rules annually. You don't have to update them annually, but you need to review them annually. And it will help if you know the bylaws and can explain them and the standing rules. Those questions will come up. You need to arrange the nominating committee's first meeting after their election. You provide the committee with information on the nomination and election process. At later time in this term, we will be having separate trainings for nominating committee and elections to go over the fine details. I have provided you with the parliamentarian job description from the California State PTA Toolkit as a handout for your review and reference. Okay, next slide. The parliamentarian is there to help the meeting so it goes smoothly. As the parliamentarian, it's going to be your job to advise the president on parliamentary procedure. I suggest sitting next to the president at meetings. That way you can be as discreet as possible. However, as we have found out, in a virtual meeting, you probably are not going to be able to sit right next to the president. And the president may ask you, for instance, who wishes to speak. In order to help track this as the parliamentarian, you may want to have people raise their virtual hands or type in the chat that they wish to speak. This will help you keep a list of who wishes to speak. It is the duty of the parliamentarian to make sure that the rights of all members are observed. You should not wait until the president asks for advice if the rights are being compromised. Then it may be too late. So please have your president's back at all times. An experienced parliamentarian, or even an experienced people person, will often see a problem developing and be able to head it off with a few words or a note to the chair. The parliamentarian can speak to those at the meeting only if the president requests it. Parliamentary law gives the chair, who is the president at most of our meetings, and the chair alone the power to rule on questions of order or to answer parliamentary inquiries. They can turn it over to you, but they are the ultimate person that responds to the questions of order or parliamentary inquiries. You may be asked to assist in meeting preparation, which may include the election of the nominating committee or the officers. One of the handouts that I included also is the sample PTA agenda with motions and phrases to be used as a reference. It is fairly general and is a good guide to also share with your president. You should monitor the association and executive board attendance to ensure there's a quorum to conduct business. Quorums are listed in your current bylaws. If quorum is not met, business cannot be conducted, whether it be the executive board or the association. Only informational reports can be given. Any item requiring approval or adoption may not be presented. It's your responsibility to track speakers during the debate of a motion. You may want to have a standing rule limiting debate or make a motion before having the business brought forward. For instance, you could say, I move to limit debate on motions to 3 for and 3 against for 2 minutes from each speaker. In most cases, you'll know when something will be brought forward as a motion so that you can gauge whether it will be heavily debated, and knowing this ahead of time will allow for a smoother meeting. Listen to all meeting proceedings and alert the president if an item conflicts with your bylaws, standing rules, or the toolkit. All items that meet that criteria should be deemed null and void by the president. One example of an action which might make an election null and void would be if somebody is nominated for an office that did not meet the 30-day requirement as a PTA member as stated in our bylaws. You must follow the bylaws at all times. So as you could see, there are several things that a parliamentarian can do to assist the president. Keep the speakers list, act as a timekeeper, advise parliamentary basics, guide them on bylaws and procedures, have your bylaws handy for reference, even if it's just online, help answer questions, and identify ways to move forward in a meeting. All right, next slide. Parliamentary law. As parliamentarian, it is your job to help teach the members of your board how to use parliamentary procedures. These are basically the rules of the game. The game being a PTA. I have provided a handout titled Parliamentary Myth Questions, which are true and false questions, as well as all the answers. It's a great overview of all the things parliamentarian. You can give the quiz to your executive board ahead of time and allow them 15 minutes during the meeting and give them the answers while going over a few. It's a great training tool. So the basic principles of parliamentary law are order. Consider only one subject or business item or motion at a time. Only one piece of business. This keeps things streamlined and you don't get distracted as easily as I can if I'm running a meeting. I tend to like to give everybody a chance to speak, and it may be off topic. If we stay to the one subject at a time, the meeting will go much smoother. Equal opportunity is a chance for everyone to participate with partiality to none. All members can propose motions, participate in debate, vote, and share organizational activities according to their talents, skills, and desires. To vote, you must be a member for at least 30 days. That's in your bylaws. That's in all bylaws for PTA. The secretary for your unit should have a list of members with their join date. Justice. Fairness to all, ensuring that everyone understands the process. Ensures that voting is to be fair and free for every member eligible to vote. All members have the right to ask questions and fully understand what effect their vote will have. Sometimes it's not crystal clear when you're making a motion what a yes vote means and what a no vote means. Ask the question. And if you see puzzled looks, as the president or the parliamentarian, explain it. Complex motions should be explained by the president or chair. Meetings should be conducted fairly, and I must emphasize, with respect. You don't have to like everyone that's at the meeting, but you need to treat them with respect, and they need to treat you with respect. That'll help the meetings go smoothly and stay to the PTA issues at hand. Procedural rules are the tools in running a meeting. They are not to be used as weapons and call people out if somebody missed something. We all make mistakes, me especially, I'm the first to admit it. Be kind with your comments. The right of the minority to be heard. All members have an equal voice. If there are only 3 general members and the majority of the people are on the board or on committees, give everyone a chance to speak that wants to speak. The right of the majority to decide. It's democratic rule, plain and simple. partiality to none vote during a voice vote. They may be voting in the event of a tie, and there may vote at that point during a ballot vote. So be flexible in your voting. If there is no second, the motion dies for lack of second. Motions that come from a committee do not need a second. Those are just basics. The current edition of Robert's Rules governs PTA when the bylaws do not specify a specific ruling. However, if it is in your bylaws, the bylaws always take precedence over Robert's Rules. Next slide, please. Thank you. Motions. Motions are how the business of a meeting is presented. A motion is technically a formal proposal by a member at the meeting to do something. They are how the members get their say, whether it be making a motion, debating a motion, or voting. That is the basis of the motion. Motions are a proposal on which the members at the meeting take a stand or take an action on some issue. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, it is your job to help teach the members of your board to use parliamentary procedures. Members participate and get their say by making motions. Motions should include all pertinent information, including what, where, when, the cost. Be as specific as possible. All members have the right to present motions, second motions, debate motions, and vote on motions. That is your right as a member. There are basically 8 steps to making a motion. A member raises their hand and waits to be recognized or called on by the president. The president then recognizes or calls on that member. The member presents the motion stating, I move whatever. It always starts with I move. We'll nail that home later in the presentation. Another member seconds the motion to show that more than one person is interested in discussing that item. Motions that come from a committee to the association don't need the second, but still need to be recorded. The chair then restates the motion to ensure that everyone understands what will be discussed. The members discuss the motion with equal opportunity to participate. You, as parliamentarians, should track the speakers for and against, even if you don't have a motion of limiting the number, because you want it to be fair to both sides. The chair then puts the motion to a vote, saying all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. As parliamentarian, please make sure that the chair calls for any no votes. Sometimes this is forgotten because you hear a majority of yeses. It needs to be stated in the minutes that there were no votes and it was asked. The chair then announces the result to ensure that all members know if the motion was approved or failed, and it is recorded in the minutes. In your handouts, there is also motions, 8 steps, the PTA motion chart from CAPTA, and a copy of the motion chart to give to your president, have it handy at meetings, as I said before. Next slide, please. Making a motion. Making a motion begins with 2 very simple words. I move. The member presents the motion stating, I move that. whatever the motion is. You do not say, I so move, so moved. I make a motion. Or my all-time favorite, and those of you that have known me for a while know that I just love this, I motion that. And that phrase just makes me laugh at the image of the member waving their arms and pointing out what their motion is. If a motion comes from a committee, the committee recommends and I move is the phrase. If the motion comes from the executive board to the association, the phrase is with the executive board concurring, I move. The president then restates the motion exactly as it was moved. After the vote, the president states the motion is adopted or the motion has failed. This must be recorded in the minutes every time we have a vote on a motion. Next slide, please. Amending motions. An amendment is a way to change a motion that's already on the floor before the vote is taken. A motion may be amended by inserting or adding words, striking words that are already in the motion, striking words and inserting words, or substituting one paragraph for another in a long motion. When you make an amendment, it's the same as making a motion. You need to be very specific. You need to make sure that the amendment is relevant and has bearing on the subject. It doesn't have to be an agreement, but it has to be relevant to the motion on the floor. There may be only two motions that have an amendment, two amendments that for a motion at any one time. There's a primary amendment and a secondary amendment. After the secondary amendment, move ahead, because you could be there all day and all night fine-tuning the motions. And if there needs to be further discussion, the motion can fail and a new motion be given. An amendment must be seconded the same way that a motion is. It's debated, amended, and needs a majority vote. Changes to language must be stated as motion. Robert's Rules does not recognize friendly emotion amendments to a motion. An amendment must fall within the scope of the notice created what currently exists and what was proposed in the meeting. If you're having a meeting about something specific, only those topics can be discussed at the meeting. The amendment must be debated and voted upon unless it is adopted by unanimous consent. The maker of the original motion does not have to accept an amendment for it to be considered by the voting body. So an amendment does not have to win over the original person that made the motion. Adopting the amendment does not adopt the original motion. The original motion, as amended, must be voted on separately. There's a handout that I sent you, a motion how to amend for more specific information and examples, and please feel free to use it as a reference. Next slide, please. Motions, voting methods. All voting should be fair and free for every member eligible to vote. The chair of a meeting, the president, has the right to call for different types of voting methods. Any member has the right to ask for a different type of vote. When the member asks, it must be seconded and the membership must vote to decide whether that mode of voting is accepted. The motion is not debatable, but it is amendable. For example, if a member wishes to vote by ballot, he or she must make a motion to vote by ballot. The motion is then seconded, and the members must agree by a majority vote to vote by ballot for the original motion. The types of voting are voice vote, as in all those in favor say aye, those opposed say no. A show of hands or even a standing vote. I would refrain from a standing vote if you're via Zoom. It can get very dicey as to where cameras are placed. You can use the show of hands for a 2/3 vote. Roll call vote is a person by person orally giving their vote. This vote is to be tallied by the parliamentarian. Ballot votes are used when secrecy is desired because the issue is considered divisive, or meaning that there are more people that are comfortable voting privately. Ballot voting is required when there are more than one candidate. If there are 2 or more candidates for an office, a committee chair, etc., then a ballot vote is required. General consent, a vote of silent agreement without a single objection. The chair would say, if there is no objection, I tend to use this at our association meetings to not read all the rules and regulations that are sent out to every member attending. This way, I don't have to take the time to read everything. And so I ask for, if there's no objection, we will dispense with reading of the rules and regulations. You use this when there will probably be no objection. Should even one objection be voiced, then the chair asks the association to decide by presenting a motion. Proxy voting is prohibited. Phone votes, ballots being sent out to the school or membership and then returned to the office or the PTA folder. Internet voting, or sending someone to vote in your place, your neighbor, a non-member spouse, or your child to vote for you. None of these are allowed. You must be a member for at least 30 days to make a motion, debate, or vote. That goes for every meeting. Any actions taken in violation of these bylaws are null and void. Next slide, please. Now it's your turn. You've listened to me talk for quite a while, explaining the primary roles of the parliamentarian. So now is the time to address the questions.
Yes, we have some questions.
Yay.
I'm going to start from the top. I tried my best to answer, but I want to, for everybody else who's out there and maybe unable to see chat, I think it might be helpful just to give everyone the answer. So first one was from Jessica. She said, although a member cannot vote if they haven't been a member for 30 days, do they still count toward quorum?
No.
Yeah, and so I just said only voting eligible members count toward quorum, but that is a really good question. So if you have 100 people in a room and only 5 of them are members and your quorum is 15, you're still out of luck, unfortunately. But then right. Lauren came back with a good exception to the rule. She said if a member needs to be a member for at least 30 days in order to vote, what about the first PTA meeting of the year in which members have newly refreshed their PTA membership and it hasn't yet been 30 days? So there's some diciness here. I don't know if you want to tackle it. I can put my membership hat on and explain this a little bit, but let me know how you want to deal with this.
Yes, you're 100% right that your membership from last year is still valid until the end of October. This way, it gives people the chance to become members for the current year without jeopardizing that we can't have a meeting until the end of October. So anyone that was a member last year is still a viable member for this year's term until October 31st.
Yeah, and that would be the only exception. Otherwise, if you had someone join the day before your association and they had not been a PTA member before, then they would not be able to vote. So that's why the timing is really important as you kind of start getting deeper into this. I hope that answered your guys' question there. Thank you for 2 parts. I love that it was like 2 different parliamentarians who are excited about this stuff. We also have a comment from Kathy. She says, not sure if I heard correctly about the no or opposed votes needing to be recorded in the minutes. I didn't know if you misspoke or if that is, maybe could you elaborate a little bit more on how voting should be captured in minutes?
I would suggest, and the secretary's training should clarify most clearly, but you should make sure that it reflects that it was requested that anyone in opposition had a chance to voice that opposition, even if nobody did.
Yeah, you know, what we can do is maybe, I bet, if it's okay with you, maybe we can get some clarity on that. And when we push back out the recording, maybe we could just answer that one question, because I know that one's a little squirrely. I can't say that I know much about the recording secretary game myself.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it would hurt to have more information. I know that absolutely you want to record that a vote occurred and that, you know, it was seconded, or that a motion, you know, took place, what that motion was, that it was seconded, and whether or not the motion passed or failed. That I do know like 100%. But
right,
you can get some clarity. And I got to tell you, it doesn't matter how long you've been in PTA. I'm constantly learning stuff that I was like, oh, I didn't realize we couldn't do that. My bad.
Me too.
Let's see. I get one more question, I believe, in here. Yes, Sarah said, do amendments apply only to motions that have not passed? And second part of that is, how are approved motions amended?
They're not.
Yeah. So if it's been a motion has been okay. So maybe in the 2 scenarios, let's take the first bit. Do amendments apply only to motions that have not passed? The answer is just yes, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. But then for the how are motions, if motions are approved, what are the things that are on the table? Like if a motion is approved and it passed, but now you guys realize, oh, we don't want to put that in front of the association, or we don't want to act on it. What is the, I guess, that?
That's why that's why there's debate before a motion passes. It gives everybody the chance to voice their side of it. And if the motion passes, it passes. Just because you don't like something, and I've been at meetings where it's been very heated and everyone is very passionate about their side, and the losing side says, we lost, I want to open this up again. You can't. That's the purpose of having an open debate, open discussion, open vote. And the results need to be shared. It's not private results. If you have a ballot vote, you need to record the numbers. You should report out the numbers. You should not just say, oh, I looked at it and the motion passed. You need to say, of the 27 people that voted, 20 voted in favor, 7 voted against.
We've got some more questions about this, so I apologize. And again, we can always follow up to and ensure that everyone feels
absolutely
answer. But Amanda asked, I thought there was a procedure for rescinding a motion. Also, I thought there was provisions for majority reports when there is a hotly debated type vote. And again, this is not my bag, which is why Nanette's
I am not aware of it. Yes, I'm not aware of this, but I can investigate this.
And I will say, I don't know that that's it happens typically. I can tell you that 99% of the votes you guys are going to encounter will largely be, I move that, what the committee recommends, and I move all of that good stuff, and usually yes or no votes. But we can definitely look into that. Stephanie asked a follow-up question. If a motion passes, can you no longer make an attempt, or can no longer attempt amendment? Amendment is just yes. Is just during the debate.
Yes.
yeah, it gets really squirrely. I think that I want to say though, it is really important that as your team, I will just put in a plug here, as your team gets better at making motions, you know, it'd be good to give everyone a tutorial on what should be like the good components of a motion. For instance, you know, at my board meetings, we're often doing events, right? So I move to approve the contract at this venue for this event happening during these days at a cost of blah, 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 payable upon blah, blah, blah. That is a huge, long, painful motion, but it encapsulates everything. There's no question as to who we are going to pay, who we want to put a contract in front of, what venue we want to do, and what it's for, and the cost. So the better that your team becomes at making motions and being clear and writing it out in advance, that does help a ton. And I will say this, even though it's really not maybe the parliamentarian's job, but it's good advice for you guys as board members. It's okay to have side discussions if you ever get to a meeting to kind of better understand what are the concerns. Hopefully you guys have discussions in between meetings in which it's well known what is to come. So hopefully you're not side swipe.
Blindsided, yes.
Yep. Amanda said not majority report. Says it's a thing the mad people can do to enter their, hold on, I think I missed Amanda's first one. Amanda, you said, I thought there was a procedure for rescinding, the motion. Also, I thought there were provisions for minority report when there is a hotly debated. And that I can tell you, I've never seen and don't know. So
never
it's
seen it
possible
either.
that, and I will say there's a whole world of parliamentary procedure that is well advanced beyond. There are societies, there are professional parliamentarians, and that might be something that like an advanced parliamentarian might do. I don't know that it, again, that's terribly typical, but I think we can investigate. Yes. Sarah said, was thinking of friendly question like needing to cancel something. Is that just a new motion?
Yes. So, let's say that you originally had an event scheduled and the vendor can no longer do it, or something has happened at the school site and you cannot do that event. You have a motion to change it in whatever way, whether it be canceling it or rescheduling it. That would be a motion.
Excellent. I hope that answered your question, Sarah. Amanda asked one of our, or well, I think it was a comment and then a question. One of our board members asked about this outside discussions, the thing I just mentioned, and if PTA has to adhere to the Brown Act. She says, I don't think that's right, or I think we don't. Is that correct?
I don't know for sure. I don't think so, but I don't know for sure.
I don't believe so either. I think I don't know if maybe Melanie or one of our other colleagues wanted to chime in here. When I was talking about outside discussion, I think that it's completely logical for colleagues to have discussions about logistics before they ever get to a meeting, concerns or thoughts. Like those things can happen via committee, formally or informally. I think just speaking as colleagues trying to work through the game plan. For instance, on the back end, we're working very hard already on our spring event. And behind the scenes, there's a few of us who are evaluating contracts and giving advice, so we can make sure that we're presenting all the correct information, all the stuff we know our colleagues want to have. If we thought there would be a point of contention, we'd want to try to find answers or solutions or potential alternatives to what we're proposing. So it's not intended to be done in the shadows, because at our board meetings, we would then have an open discussion. But I just want to be clear that those board meetings, those are not like minutes that are open to everybody. Those are for the purpose, I believe, right, of the board, as opposed to the association meeting, where those are available and should be made available upon request to your members, not just anybody willy-nilly. So we're not held to maybe some of the same standards that corporations or maybe school districts or school sites would be. And I want to say, I think we're good.
Nan, as independent nonprofit organizations, we're not held to the Brown Act provisions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was the voice of Melanie Lucas, our 33rd District President. Yes.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, the two heavy hitters. I love it. I don't see anything else in chat. Madam Parliamentarian, is there anything else you would like to address?
Not unless somebody has a burning question that can't wait to the end of the presentation.
Excellent. We've got one more Q&A coming up, and you guys keep putting stuff in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. Thank you guys so much for being here again. Appreciate you guys nerding out over bylaws and parliamentary stuff.
I know. And listening to me drone on.
I love it.
Bylaws are so dry as parliamentarian information. I mean, I don't get the fun stuff like reflections where it can be creative. The bylaws are going to be your best friend. It's your Bible. It is your GPS, your roadmap. As parliamentarian, you need to help everyone on your board understand the bylaws. If you don't understand it, ask. We were not on July 1st implanted with this knowledge of bylaws and parliamentary rule. It's just not happening. So everybody is learning. And so asking questions is perfectly legit as finding out the answers. Think about the word bylaws. I like to remember bylaws as the organization must run by the law. These are the laws or rules that are required in order to be a nonprofit organization legally. Those are the laws. We follow the laws. Bylaws help you govern and show how a PTA should be run and function. All this information is in your bylaws. Sometimes it's not as easy to find, but it's there. I'm sure many of you, like me, even though you're pretty sure where you're going, when you get in your car, you still use your GPS. Your bylaws act as the GPS for all nonprofit organizations and are the basic framework for a PTA. It's that simple. It's the roadmap. If used properly, it can help build trusted relationships between the board and your association members. It can work towards making your organization a welcoming, diverse, equitable, and inclusive place for your membership. Everyone is treated the same. If the bylaws are used improperly or perhaps not followed, your PTA may be going down the wrong path. Bylaws are legally binding. They are submitted to government agencies to obtain approval as a charitable trust. You get your charitable trust number or filing your federal employer identification number, your EIN. So you have the watchdog of these government entities. So it is critical that your bylaws are properly reviewed and updated so they reflect how the PTA is working. We have found instances where the bylaws were not followed and officers were elected to positions that are not listed in the bylaws. They are not valid positions. You need to elect to the bylaws and then update your bylaws if you want to change or add officers. And then after that goes the entire process, then you can elect additional officers. You cannot change or suspend the rules of your bylaws. They are your bylaws. Plain and simple. What do they tell us? Membership, they tell us per capita dues, how much goes where, remittance deadlines, they should be monthly to your council and the council submitting to the district. Other pertinent membership information is also included in the bylaws. Boards and elections, what officers are required, nomination committee requirements, term restrictions, and dates of elections. The meetings, it tells you about the general board and association meetings, which make meeting elections are held. The required meeting quorums, who can make motions, debate, and vote. The budget, the programs, the expenditures which must be approved by the membership, and requirements for calling a special meeting. The name of the organization as it was chartered. This is the legal name of the PTA and must appear on all legal documents, like the minutes, the tax filings, any communications to district or state. It also includes the start and end of the fiscal year and various identification numbers assigned to your PTA. The basic policies of PTAs are including non-commercial, non-sectarian, non-partisan policies. And the board should review its goals to make sure that they align with the purposes of PTA. Who gets a copy of the bylaws? All members of your executive board should have a copy of the current bylaws. If you make changes and new bylaws are ratified, then the executive board would get copies of the new bylaws. But all members should have copies of the existing current bylaws. In addition, any member, upon request, may review a copy. They don't necessarily get a copy, but they are free to look through it and verify what their concerns are or to become familiar what the bylaws are. When to update your bylaws? You need to review them annually and update them at least every 5 years. One of the reasons for making sure your bylaws are current is if you don't have current bylaws, it affects the eligibility of your students to participate in state PTA programs like Reflections. You must be a unit in good standing in the eyes of state PTA to have your students considered. What are the standing rules? The standing rules direct the administration of the organization. They are procedural, not parliamentary. Vice presidents, the officers, are listed in the standing rules. The association meeting dates are listed in the standing rules. They provide committee information, how to form a committee, how long the committee serves, how to make and file committee reports, the process for being a committee chair. Also, your standing rules are listed. The standing committees, those are committees that function all year long. For example, bylaws state when the election meeting is to be held. The standing rules tell you when the meeting of the association and the executive board meetings are specifically held. Bylaws identify the primary responsibilities of the officers, where the standing rules list the specifics. Anything specific to the job would be listed in the standing rules. Okay, next slide, please. You as parliamentarian are the facilitator for the bylaws. That's why you need to understand the bylaws and the standing rules and can explain them to your board and members. Review the bylaws and standing rules annually. Not the standing rules, but the standing rules. Submit any bylaws updates following proper procedures and through channels. Submit any standing rule changes through channels as well. Next slide, please. As parliamentarian, you will serve as the bylaws committee chair and is appointed by the president along with the other committee members. The purpose of the bylaws committee, not you as the parliamentarian, but having a committee, is to ensure that there is consensus on what changes or amendments or additions will help the organization and the members better advocate for the children and their families and carry out the mission of PTA. There are specific steps and procedures that need to be followed when submitting updated bylaws. We'll get to that in a future slide. The standing rules should be reviewed and approved annually. Any changes which don't require a bylaws change may be approved by a majority of the association with a 30-day notice or by 2/3 majority without notice. Revised and approved standing rules should be sent through channels to council and district for their records. If you're just changing standing rules, it does not get submitted to state until the bylaws change. Next slide, please. Okay, the start of this long and arduous process. The president appoints the bylaws committee chaired by the parliamentarian. The committee reviews the bylaws using e-bylaws. That's the easiest way to utilize the new base bylaws that state puts out. The parliamentarian fills out the bylaws submission form for units and councils for 33rd District. A copy of this bylaw submission form was included in your handout. The committee then prepares and presents to the executive board the recommendation, either that no changes be made or the list of proposed amendments. The executive board votes and the outcome is recorded in the minutes. If they're approved, the parliamentarian submits the revised bylaws and the bylaws submission form to the council parliamentarian. The council parliamentarian then will review the submission form and the revised bylaws for errors and completeness. And when they're complete, they will add their council information as parliamentarian to the bylaws submission form and email both to the district parliamentarian. That's me. The district parliamentarian will then review for errors and completeness. And when that is complete, I would then add my information to the submission form and submit them to the California State PTA parliamentarian for review and approval. Next slide, please. It does continue. After the bylaws are approved and signed by the state parliamentarian, they return them to the district parliamentarian. I then send them back to the council parliamentarian, who then will send them back to the unit for association approval and unit signatures. An association meeting is scheduled to adopt the amendments to the bylaws. Members must be notified of the meeting at least 30 days in advance, and a list of the proposed changes and amendments must be included with the notice. A 2/3 vote of the association membership is required to adopt the amendments. The results of the vote will be recorded in the meeting minutes. The unit parliamentarian then sends a copy of the signature page signed by the president and secretary of the unit up through channels to the council and district parliamentarians for their records. I'll go over this process and e-bylaws in greater detail during Monday's bylaws basic workshop. Next slide, please. Just for visual, the bylaws go from the council, from the unit bylaws are sent to the council then sends it to district, and it just shows you the flow of the bylaws. It's just a visual of everything that I rambled on about in the process. Next slide, please. Another job of the parliamentarian is instructing the nominating committee. You also prepare the committee to help nominate the slate of officers for your next PTA term. The committee is so important in helping choose your next set of leaders. The parliamentarian can help guide them and advise them on how they should proceed, and should also provide instructions in procedures such as the offices to be filled and eligibility requirements. Those are laid out in your bylaws. One critical point would be to remind the committee about the confidentiality that is required of all discussions that the nominating committee makes. Your bylaws determine the number of members
Más del año.
on the nominating committee and alternatives. The parliamentarian and the nominating committee. The parliamentarian needs to be prepared to read sections of the bylaws pertaining to nominations and elections at the association meetings where the nominating committee is elected and the election of the officers at the election meeting. The makeup of your unit's nominating committee is specified in your bylaws, and the committee
No, Andrew,
must
déjala.
be
No,
elected.
déjala. Oh,
Can you please mute if
sí, yo creo que en el
you're
piso
not?
se la con.
Give me 1 second. I'm
No,
trying to figure out who has their. It looks like everybody is muted.
No member may be a member of the nominating committee for 2 consecutive terms or years. The president may never be a member of the nominating committee. They are members of every other committee, but not the nominating committee. All committee members must have been unit members for at least 30 days prior to be elected to the nominating committee. The parliamentarian may be a member of the nominating committee if they did not serve on the committee last term, and if they are elected. If the parliamentarian is not a member of the committee, they must leave the meeting after giving the instruction and proper procedures, but they should be available by phone for any questions. Next slide, please. And lastly, once again, as parliamentarian, you are entitled to all rights and privileges of being a member, which includes the right to make motions, debate, and to vote. I have included one more good handout titled Parliamentarian Questions from the Field, put out by CAPTA, which I encourage all of you to read and keep as a reference. They have a lot of examples in that handout. Next slide, please. Resources that are available. Most importantly, as we discussed, your unit and council bylaws. They take precedence over anything. The 33rd District website has really good information, as does the California State PTA website, including the toolkit. Several different website landing spots are listed here, as well as the National PTA website. To get on to the state PTA website and the pertinent information for parliamentarians, next slide, please. Go to capta.org. You click on PTA leaders, and then below that, run your PTA. That'll give you the options of bylaws and standing rules, nominations and elections, parliamentary procedures, as well as my PTZ finance, membership, and insurance information. But your basic information as a parliamentarian can be found here. And next slide, please. Now I will open it up to further questions.
All righty, we have some in the queue already because these are eager parliamentary nerds, and I love it.
I love it too.
Somebody had asked, let me get back to where we were. What time is the bylaws presentation or workshop on Monday? That is 6 p.m. You guys can still register trainings. I'll put that in the chat though, but you can still register up until just before. And same thing, we'll record it and share it.
Yeah.
Somebody had said, if parliamentarians cannot make the meeting, should they be appointed? Who subs?
The president should appoint a parliamentarian pro tem. Somebody at the meeting who will help guide the president on parliamentary procedures and our bylaws.
Which probably means that you, I mean, again, you probably want, do you want to stop sharing the screen for a moment too, Cindy?
Absolutely, yeah, that's fine.
So what all I was trying to say was that I think that it speaks to why you want all of your members to have some general sense of, you know, parliamentary stuff and at least be comfortable and have copies of their bylaws for sure. Parliamentary, okay, we got that one. We talked about bylaws. I did get a question though, a follow-up question about how do they get copies of their bylaws? Let's say you're a unit and you're just not really sure how would you recommend them getting those?
You should contact your council parliamentarian if you are in a council. If there is no parliamentarian, you should contact your council president. As all of us former presidents know, we are the default for every position. So if there's no parliamentarian, the default falls to the president. If as a council parliamentarian, you don't have the unit bylaws, contact me and I can make sure you're provided with.
Excellent, I love it. Also, if you're out of council, that's my business. So I'm Nanette Nolan, I'm the out of council mentor, out of council unit. So just so everyone is here is aware, you know, you guys have a unit and many of you do have councils that are kind of like aligned over your school district, right? So in Torrance, there's a Torrance council for all 30 of the units, but there are units that aren't attached to a council for whatever reason. And in that case, 33rd District serves that function. So if you're out of council and you're kind of like, I'm not sure about this, I'll pop my email also in the chat and then you can reach out if you have questions. I have a clarifying question from Amanda. She says approval of standing rules is done by the association, not just the board. Is that correct?
No, it is just the board, I believe.
The executive board, right?
Yes, yes.
If a member of council, not a council parliamentarian, requested personal copy for themselves, do we provide a copy or is that only for executive board members of that specific PTA and the council parliamentarian? That's an interesting question. I know. And Kathy, and feel free to unmute if
the council parliamentarian should have access to all the unit bylaws. And if there's a specific question, they can be the point of contact. Everyone, just because you're on council, do not get access to the unit bylaws the same way that just because you're on 33rd, everybody on the board does not have access to the council bylaws and the unit bylaws.
You know, I wanted to ask that. So at the council that I belong to, we have, it's not every council works the same. So if you're hearing something, you're like, that's not what we do. That's no judgment. That's just different. Every council has a different preference. In Torrance, we have 30 units and we have a fairly large board, I think about 17 of us. And so we generally double up and serve as mentor for a unit. And in those cases, council does have a copy because we're not doing anything weird or odd or nefarious with it. We're using it so that when we go to your meetings, we're aware of what your quorum is, what your meetings are. And you'd be surprised how often our units are just thankful that they had somebody who could quickly answer their questions. So, while I agree absolutely with everything Cindy said, I will say there's always a little bit of an exception to the rule. So, I mean, I can't imagine anyone just walking around wanting personal copies of bylaws. But yeah, yeah, so I think trying to understand what that is. So, and if that is your case, Kathy, where maybe your mentor, whoever has been assigned to like support your team, is asking for a copy, then that might be a thing. I will say that the really dicey part of it is that your sensitive kind of financial federal ID and state ID and all of that is on one specific page. So I think that's probably like the issue, maybe,
Right.
you know, with wanting to make
Yeah.
sure it's not out there in the general public. So I would say hopefully your unit to council relationship is very strong and they're there to support you. So hopefully that helps, or maybe it did not.
If it did not, feel free to message me directly and we can try to work through it.
Yes. Sarah has a very cool question, a couple of them. She says, will there be a session on nominating committees? Ooh, it's chill.
Yes, that is my plan.
Nice. Yeah, and we're a little ways away. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting together if you have questions now, reach out to your parliamentarian at your council level. If you're out of council, Cindy is your lady. You can hit me up and I'll patch you in, but there are answers. And also the resources that Cindy shared, the leaders at CAPTA.org, the CAPTA.org, they do have really good information. Even just I was double dipping here as I was looking for some of the answers because I was kind of curious about some of the questions that came up, because I, again, have not approached these. They have all these cheat sheets. All over the years, so many people have had the exact same questions, and they're odd ones that don't come up all that often. Please do consider just doing a search on their little, their little search boxes, and you may find the answer that you're looking for like
Control F is your best friend. Control F is your best friend on these websites.
My favorite, yeah. Another question, how do you manage meetings when people are upset or their feelings are hurt? Are there magic parliamentary words since everyone is an adult? Do you let people talk it out?
I think it's a matter of how the president runs the meeting. It is up to the president how the meeting is run, and if the discussion has gone on too long, I mean, it reminds me a lot of these debates that go on at our school board meetings where they go on for 3, 4, 5 hours. We don't want that in PTA. Everyone's a volunteer here. And as long as everyone is given a chance to voice their opinion, at least once, then you're covered. And we can gently remind people that this discussion is over. If you have further questions, feel free to contact the president directly.
Yeah, a couple of things I can also chime in and suggest. This is a good policy for everybody on a board, period. If you're listening, this message is for you and all your colleagues who are not here tonight. I would say, so California State PTA has a wonderful little one sheet. You can look for it. I can try to find it in chat, a governance standards. It's essentially asking people to behave professionally. We are executives, I can't stress that enough, working for free, a nonprofit. You are an executive board member on a nonprofit organization. That's a pretty big deal. And so I think asking everyone to kind of come up to the level and act professionally. And this is where I think the rules that you guys try to implement from the very beginning end up being like your backstop when things get a little sideways. If you have a meeting early on in the year, you could still have one now with your president, tell the president, hey, I think we might benefit from this. Everybody reads through it at a meeting, agrees to it, and I think that you could even have them sign for it, I think. But then that is everybody's rules. And so if you get into a place where you're going to have a contentious issue, and those do arise, then just make sure that everybody is aware what the rules are, that it's going to be one pro and maybe one against, and you'll limit the time, and you'll try to ensure that, and as people get heated saying, I completely understand, you want to validate people. I think that's really important. It's really hard when people feel passionate, but validating their feelings, acknowledging that you understand what they're saying, asking that they adhere to the time limit, and provide everyone else a chance to speak. And just try to keep it fair. That's it. And you can't ultimately, if people are going to speak out of order or acting wild, those ones get really tricky, and it's hard to give you one single answer or a magic answer. I think trying to be gracious, professional, taking a deep breath, and asking everyone else to remain calm helps to neutralize situations where it gets really heated and hurtful. And trying to remind people that this isn't personal preferences. We're talking about this is the mission of the PTA, and what we are agreeing to here is where we're going to host this or how many balloons we're going to have. You can also table debates, I believe, right? Like bring something back to committee. How does that
Yes.
work?
You can send the,
Well, not parliamentarians, that is, but
yeah, you can send the discussion back for additional information and then vote on it at a later time if there's not enough information to actually vote on whatever the event or process is.
Amanda wanted to touch back on the nominating committee question. She was saying, when are we expecting on hosting something for nominating committees? For instance, they're right on the line. On November 16th, we'll be electing their nominating committee. So I think, there might be some units that are right now, or even councils, I think, who are like hot and ready.
Okay, I've got a great answer. I don't know when I'll be presenting an updated workshop. It will hopefully be this fall. However, if you go to the 33rd District website and go to the training, our YouTube channel has the last year's presentations available. So you can feel free to watch those and get ideas from there. And if you have questions after viewing that, please feel free to contact me.
Thank you guys so much.
I hope that
love all
helps.
the questions. Look at these eager beavers. I dig it. The other question they had, okay, we got that one done. Nominating committee is done. Check. Oh, this is a good question. I'm glad it's not specific to parliamentarians, but I'm glad that someone asked it. It says, I'm a little confused by the CAPTA leaders site. I got logged in with the CID from bylaws, but I don't see where I can go or what I can look at. So once you're logged in, you should land on like a main page. Do you want me to share that? Cindy, I can pull it up if anyone wants to see, but I don't want to take us away from the topic either.
Do we have any other questions?
I think
I don't see any others.
It. Oh, if someone just popped in, they had more stuff. Thanks for the link. Oh no, no, that's the last of the questions right now.
Okay, so you can share that, and then hopefully people can formulate additional questions.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me pop this up online. I think you guys can see my browser now, so you'll see.
Yep.
So what Amanda was mentioning, when you first go to this site, which is the California State PTA, I believe they're trying to move the stuff that is kind of out there in public behind kind of this gated space so PTA leaders can access it. I don't know if that's true. That's what I've been telling people, so I might be. Maybe Cindy or Melanie can speak to that. But once you've signed up with you do need your unit ID number, which is on your bylaws. Then you would have have access after that point. And then the beauty of it is hopefully what you guys all see is this layout here. And then once you're here, you can kind of navigate it, I think pretty intuitively, sort of like your other stuff. And then they have their handy search bar. So we had questions about standing rules. They would be able to explain, you find sections here on standing rules that come from the toolkit, some questions that may come up that you didn't even know that you were interested in, and some other goodies. So this is just their search tool, but under, voila. So there's that. Hopefully that's helpful. I know that it's a different configuration than maybe what you guys are used to in the toolkit or even in the website, but function-wise, it's generally the same. I hope that's helpful. I'm gonna stop sharing. Any other questions, thoughts? I did find an interesting piece from one of the California State PTAs. It was like a field notes, I think. And this was about general consent. I don't know if you maybe wouldn't mind if I read the one paragraph that it speaks to.
Absolutely.
So it says, how is general consent recorded in minutes? So I think general consent meaning unanimous consent requires a quorum. General unanimous consent requires that a quorum be present. So, if you have a number of people and in your bylaws specified, they're all there and then they vote. To obtain general consent, the chair must state, if there is no objection, blank action will be taken. If no member objects to the chair announcing, well, no, actually, I think that's, well, hold on, let me finish reading and I guess we can clarify. If there's no objection, blank action will be taken. If no member objects, the chair announces, since there's no objection, blank action will be taken. If a member objects, the chair must state the question on the motion and proceed with the vote in a regular manner. In the minutes, a statement by general consent, the action will be stated. I actually think that's referring to not what you guys were referring to. I apologize. I think the general consent is if, well, I don't want to misspeak. Actually, I don't want to misspeak more than I do normally. Cindy, did you want to explain general consent? I think I know what the answer is, but I don't want to get into hot water.
It is basically unanimous decision. There is no objection to moving forward.
Yeah, I think of like the example that comes to mind is when, you know, Cindy had mentioned usually in the association meeting, she has all the rules in the book, both in English and Spanish. We would have both versions available. But then instead of making her read all of it, she's just able to say with, you know, unless there's any objection, you know, or I guess Melanie would say, unless there's any objection, we'll dispense with the reading of the minutes. Those are all in your agenda. And as long as nobody's like, I need everything written and read out, then it goes. I know that that probably wasn't quite the question that we had about the motions and whether or not there are yays and nays. We'll still look for that, but I didn't find anything. So that might be
we'll check with the secretary and make sure and get the information out to you guys.
Yes. Anything else? Awesome. You guys will get a recording of this, and we will also provide you with the materials that Cindy had already provided to the earlier registrants. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Cindy, for giving us your time and your brain cells to help train.
I just want to thank all these parliamentarians. You've got this. Don't worry. You've got this. And feel free to contact me at parliamentarian@33rdpta.org if you have any questions that were not addressed during the presentation.
I'm sorry, Cindy, really quickly, how do we register for Monday's meeting?
Oh, I'll pop the link in the chat in just a moment.
Thank you. Thank you.